All right. Hello, 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 and welcome. I am Susan Gatti here from Disruptive Spark. I have my good friend with me, Dr. Staci Weiner. Staci, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be.
Happy Friday. If you're joining us live or if you're catching us on the replay, definitely tell us where you're coming from around the world. I happen to be in the incredible space of Long Island, New York. What about you, Staci? Where are you at in the world?
I am in Boca Raton, Florida.
Wow, it's cold as heck up here. Are you a little bit better weather-wise?
Oh, yeah. It's actually really nice here. So come on down.
Goodness. You're so lucky. All right, we got to come on down. Well, welcome everyone. If you've been a part of the show before or whether you're brand new to the show, my name is Susan Gatti. I'm the founder of a company called Disruptive Spark, where we help our mission-based leaders to achieve big goals in their organizations. And we do a lot of training around how to do it in a healthy, high performance way. It's kind of one of my passions. I love to say, I know that you can hustle harder, but I really don't think that you have to. And after years and years and years of doing it the hustle way, I started learning some strategies and techniques that we've turned into a real cornerstone and principle of our business that we call healthy, high performance. And we started this show, which I'm going to share my
I can hear you.
I'm also the tech girl, so sometimes it gets a little dicey back here. So what did you think of our new graphic, Healthy High Performance? We know you can work harder, but we don't think you should have to.
That is awesome.
It's a good philosophy, right?
Yeah.
So listen, we invited Staci on the show today. Staci is actually one of our favorite Disruptive Spark partners. She is an incredible leader and just human. But she also has a really unique gift and talent in helping people to unlock their potential. So when you think of your typical therapist or a typical therapeutic place, we often think about that for fixing things that maybe we feel are broken, right? Maybe there's something in your family system, maybe it's you, maybe it's a mental health issue. We often think of it in terms for that, and absolutely you should be. But one of the reasons we partner specifically with Staci is because they have an entire division dedicated to helping leaders and helping high achievers to actually perform better with less stress. So Staci, I'm going to turn it over to you. Our goal today is to really talk a bit about just the initial connection of how can leaning into psychology, leaning into therapeutic practices, how does that actually change performance? Can we just start there?
Yes, absolutely. So, in life, it's very complicated, right? We have multiple demands coming our way in terms of being a business leader. Also, we have families, we have other obligations and things that we have to do. So we're constantly juggling a lot of different balls in the air. And that causes us to go into a trauma mode, right? Like a fight or flight stress mode. So we're constantly reacting as if there's an emergency situation. And I like to talk a lot about what happens in the brain when we are stressed and how that affects our thinking. So it's really non-negotiable to put in recovery time into your day so that we can protect our brain and be able to function in a high functioning, powerful way throughout our whole career rather than, burn ourselves out by all the chronic stress.
That's incredible. Thank you for that introduction. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, nothing's more stressful than being, a leader of a division, of a company, of a mission, even just sometimes the leader in your own internal family. There's a lot of heaviness. There's a lot of weight. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of decision fatigue. Many of our clients talk with us extensively about what it's like to manage multiple priorities, try and manage the boundaries, and still show up for their employees and still have some sort of something left to give their families when they get home. So we asked our clients, we asked a lot of our executive clients, what are some of the most common things you experience in your day-to-day and leading your company, leading your division, leading your team, and how could Staci and the expertise from psychology really help us tackle some of these really key issues? And I want to share you the number one that came up. I'm almost wondering, and anybody that's following around out there, what do you think it is? What do you think was the number one biggest issue that the majority of executive leaders experience? Believe it or not, it's actually boundary erosion. That's not what they say. That was kind of my word. But let me quantify or tell you a little bit more about what that actually means. It's actually about time pressure, right? So leaders have big goals, they have huge responsibilities, and a lot of times there's a huge time pressure in achieving them. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's imagined, sometimes it comes from you, sometimes it comes from your client or your stakeholders, but every executive is dealing with time pressure to deliver. And what we know is that, just like you said, recovery time, sometimes people refer to it as like me time, or just time for personal care or wellness care. All of those things are the same. They're the same thing in just different terminology. But that kind of is the first thing that goes away, right? The first thing that goes away is we cancel on our families, right? Maybe the first thing that goes away is we are working late, we're coming in early, we're not really able to disconnect. That's how you can recognize whether time pressure is really influencing you. And I thought, wow, who better than someone who's a trained therapist to tell us, what do you do in the world of psychology? How do you help your patients, your clients, to get really good about holding and managing their boundaries? Do you want to share a little insight on us for that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the very first thing is to change our mindset on this idea of recovery time and, self-care, because this is something that is necessary, not extra, right? Not only after I finish this task, or once I get some more time, then maybe I can do that. And so once we get into that mindset that this is necessary, and it's an obligation really that we have to take care of ourselves, because we can't take care of other people and we can't lead other people effectively unless we take care of ourselves. Because as you said, Susan, we're depleted. If we're overworked and we're constantly going from task to task, we're, at the end of the day, we're just totally depleted and cannot make appropriate decisions, cannot communicate effectively. And in fact, we detach. That's what our brain does to protect us, actually, is when we're overwhelmed, we just detach and become less empathic. Right.
And what does that mean? Yeah. Detach? Like, what does that mean? I was understanding everything else and completely agreeing it. Like, I can feel the heaviness of everything that you were talking about.
Yeah.
In my day, I feel it in my shoulders. It shows up in my back. It shows up at all kinds of places in my body. But that term detachment is kind of new for me. How would you explain that?
Yeah. So when we're overloaded, like we have too many things that were poured into our brain in the day, right? And maybe we're dealing with things from the past or different obstacles that are going on in our lives. We just, the brain is like, okay, I can't handle anymore, right? So I am just going to zone out, but not zone out in a positive way, in a purposeful way, zone out in a protective way, a coping mechanism. It's a maladaptive coping mechanism, actually. And what that does is it makes us not care, because we can't possibly give anymore or care anymore, because we've done that already and we're just done. So it affects our relationships. It affects how other people see us, our colleagues, our family members, our friends. So it's very important that we are able to manage those stressors and those demands in our day, so that we are not detaching, and we're able to have empathy for others and connect with them in a level that we know we want to.
You know what? I think you're really tapping into something we hear a lot. We hear a lot from, we don't hear this from the executive leaders. We hear it from the people that they manage. Here's what they say: my leader doesn't care about me. And, you know, I know that's not true.
Yeah.
I know these leaders. I know how much they're giving. I know the blood, sweat, and tears. But yet, their audience that they're supposed to be caring about and caring for isn't receiving that message. And they actually have the opposite perspective or the opposite point of
Yeah.
view. And I'm wondering if that detachment is like kind of the thing. I wouldn't have had a word for it. Maybe that's exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And it's
Hmm.
important to recognize these signs when we're overwhelmed, when we're overloaded, and when those demands are getting too much, so that we can then intervene and provide ourselves
Ooh.
with recovery time,
Oh my
right? So
goodness.
that
So let's play a little game. Will you play a little game with me? So
sure.
so let's talk a little bit about if I start to, like, my blood starts to boil, like there's so much stimulus coming at me and my blood starts to boil and I'm feeling like I'm gonna, or it just happens, right? I start yelling and I don't mean to,
Yeah.
right? But I snap or I yell or I say something that I'm not really proud of. I mean, these are things
Mhm.
that happen to people for
All the
sure. I
time.
think that's an
Sure.
example of what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
How would
Absolutely.
I stop that? Do you stop it? Do
Yeah.
you prevent it? Like, what can I do?
Yeah, so look, we all have indicators in our bodies that we are becoming stressed, right? As you said,
Mhm.
sometimes we feel it in our shoulders. I
Yeah.
feel it in my neck a lot of times, right? I just did a whole talk yesterday, an hour talk for attorneys on this exact topic and signs of chronic stress. So, holding our hands, we don't realize even sometimes our fists are made. Sometimes we're clenching our jaw like this and we don't even realize that that's happening.
Hmm.
So, different people have different indicators of when they are becoming stressed. And it's all about catching it and knowing it and understanding it and being like, okay, these are my signs that I'm getting stressed, and these are the signs, what's going on in my brain. There's an emergency. I'm in fight or flight. I'm not safe. Danger, danger, danger. Right? I need to
I think
start.
I spend my entire day there.
Right, exactly. Right. So that's when we know we have to give our brain the message that
Yep.
we're good. We're
You're
safe. We
okay.
got this.
Everything's okay here. You're okay.
Yeah.
We're okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
sometimes just positive self-talk or soothing talk, right? Is super
Absolutely.
helpful.
Yes, another thing that's really helpful is called box breathing. And
Tell us
we
about
could
that.
do that. Yeah, we could do
Yeah, you want
that
to try it?
together.
Teach me.
Absolutely. So what you do is you breathe in slowly through your nose like you're smelling a flower for 4 seconds. I'm going to tell you first and then we'll do it
Okay.
together. Then you hold it for 4 seconds. Then you slowly exhale through the mouth for 4 seconds. And then you hold it for 4 seconds.
Mm,
And then
that
you,
seems
you
easy.
and then
I
you
can do
continue to
that.
let go. Okay. So
Okay.
we're going to just get in a comfortable position,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So sometimes people want to close their eyes when they're doing this just to kind of go inward. You don't have to, whatever you're comfortable with. So we're going to breathe in through the nose for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale through the mouth. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. How do you feel?
So honestly, just 2 rounds of that, I absolutely feel a complete, what I would call like just a decompression in the body.
Yeah.
So, and for me, that really means, like, I think my heart rate is slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
My shoulders tend to, like, typically no space between my neck and my shoulders, all of a sudden I feel my whole body, lengthened out a little bit. And I can really see how even just a couple of rounds of that really would provide that kind of just moment to collect yourself. I might even think about this, like when I feel that stress coming on, before I respond, doing a couple of rounds of box breathing and then checking in. Now, what would I say, right? What would I have said, or how would I have responded before I did that? Now, what would I say or how I would respond? I know we're just kind of in a test case scenario here, but I can probably almost guarantee it would be very different. If I'm activated in anger, I'm going for the jugular. It's just how I'm built. But if I have a second to decompress and pull my thoughts together, I can really lean into the compassionate, caring side of me that coexists in my in my own body. I don't feel like people are one way or another. I think there's things that coexist within us, and it's really about how do you lean more into the things that you want to be known for, and let go of less of the things that sometimes get in our way of being who we want to be.
Yeah, it's not just you, Susan. This is biological, right? What we're talking about here.
Exactly.
This is biological. It's really what it is taking us out of that fight or flight mode, which for survival purposes, it decreases our focus and makes us just pay attention to the one threat that's there. So I like to give the example. If there was a fire in the room all of a sudden, what would happen, right? Would we just look at the yellow picture on the wall and be like, oh, I didn't realize that picture was yellow. Oh, what am I going to do today? No, none of that would be happening. We would be like, oh my God, there's a fire. I have to get out of here, right? Which is a great survival mechanism, because that's how it keeps us alive and away from threats, like physical, life or death situations. But it's not good if it's chronic, because what it's doing is it's decreasing our focus. It's making us not be able to make decisions, not be able to think clearly, really not being relaxed, and causing us to be reactive, right? Reactive, I gotta leave, emergency, right? So that's a reaction. We don't want to be like that when we are on a regular basis, when we're trying to make a decision, or when we're trying to focus on what other people are saying, right? So that's what that box breathing does. It brings you out of the fight or flight, or the emotional part of the brain, and brings you into the part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that talks about, thinking clearly, and, it deals with impulse control and attention.
You made that so easy to understand. And I want to just go back through the 4 steps just to recap them, but it is 4. And I think I was always missing one. So breathing in for 4, holding for 4, out through the mouth for 4, and then just holding at the end for 4. So like holding with no breath.
Yeah, just holding it. I mean, and this is not supposed to be a hyperventilating kind of a thing. Like it's not that. It's very relaxed and slow. Exactly. And so if you're feeling relaxed by the end, then you did it right. A lot of my clients, when they do this, they yawn at the end. So
interesting.
When you have the yawn, then you've done it correctly.
Oh,
because
that's a great tip. That's a great tip. That is a great tip. And as we always say at Disruptive Spark, give something 3 tries. Give something 3 tries, and repeat the steps back over and over again, and learn how to put it into a habit and a practice in order to make it helpful and useful in the moment. We have to get things into our unconscious so they become our habits and our patterns. So I want to move us on to one other one, because there's things that stress us out and rev us up. There's also things that I describe it this way as leadership. It's just very heavy. A lot of times you're privy to the worst things that happen to other people. A lot of times you're privy to financial information that can be really debilitating. As a leader, you're constantly responsible for ensuring other people get paid, that they can live their lives. And there's such a heaviness to that. And if you see, issues in the business and that that's going to cause some issues down the road, we can really internalize that. Often they're only coming to you once you hit a certain level in leadership. People aren't coming to you with they're coming to you with the problems they can't solve. So the joke in leadership is the higher you go, the more your day is just spent solving complex and challenging things. And there's a real heaviness to that can weigh on people. I was talking with one of our executive clients, and he's caught up in a post workplace event that is for him devastating, because he has a daughter too. He's a human being, and he's carrying this emotional weight. We're all carrying this emotional weight. So my question to you is, when you're in this role and you're just subject to this prolonged, intensive heaviness around certain things, how do you manage and release that heaviness without becoming callous or hard? I think that's the thing that I don't want to be that person. I don't want to become indifferent. Maybe before you said that detachment, I don't want to be that. I want to be that caring individual, but I can't take home everyone's problems. So what's the balance in there? What's the strategy, Staci? Help us with that.
Yeah. I think that this is why it's most important, right, to care for ourselves and to be aware of what we're feeling, because you're absolutely right. We're taking on a lot of other people's problems and things that they're going through, and maybe feeling responsible. And that's a heavy burden to bear. I think one thing that really helps with this is peer support, is talking to other leaders and getting their perspective or hearing what they're going through and understanding like their shared experiences. So it reduces the feeling that you're dealing with something all alone. You're not dealing with something all alone, right? And it makes it easier to approach the situation strategically instead of defensively, right? And that's sort of what you're talking about, is like reacting and being defensive. And if you hear other people are going through this and they're able to support you, it takes the heaviness away and just kind of lets the air out of the balloon kind of thing.
And that's just such a simple thing too, like just having that, little curated peer network where you can be honest about what's taking place. I know I have a couple of business owners like that in my life. We just have like these little relationships with people where I can actually call and truly be honest in a way that sometimes I can't be in other situations. And you are right. I do feel like, it's not just me. I'm not alone, right? But there's the actual release of emotion by simply speaking it out loud. I think I learned about this. I took this class. I just want to ask you if you've ever heard of this, but I took this executive leadership course when I was first starting my business through Cornell. And one of the things the professors talked about was this idea of name it to tame it. And it was just literally like naming an emotion was the start of releasing the emotion. Do you know about that? And do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, name it to tame it is 100% true, because a lot of times we don't want to deal, when it's unconscious, we don't want to deal with a certain aspect of our lives or a situation that's happened. So we kind of like push it away. And what happens is we're not talking about it, we're not processing it, but it is coming out in other ways. So emotionally, maybe the way that we're reacting to people, or maybe we're not getting sleep at night and we keep waking up, or our brain is, our thoughts are going on and on. So it comes out in other ways, even if we're not talking about it. So naming it, what it does, it takes the scariness away, because then it's like, okay, we know what we're dealing with here. And if we know what we're dealing with, we're able to process it. We're able to maybe do something about it, maybe not, but we're able to cope with it at least. And we're first, even going towards potentially the acceptance process of integrating it into our lives. So
That's
naming it is
super
important.
helpful,
Yeah.
adding on to that, because I did find a lot of relief in that too. I'm curious, just one more question. So let's say you don't really have a peer network group built for yourself yet, or maybe, you're in a situation where you really can't get to somebody. What's another way to kind of release that heavy emotion that can be bubbling up, just so that it's outside of you and not like ricocheting around inside of you? Do you have any other suggestions for that?
Yeah, like even something simple as taking a walk, listening to music, just, doing some exercise, doing something physical, that helps to release that
Those are
tension.
all release.
Yeah, just to release that and give yourself some space to process and be, able to cope and able to understand what is happening or what the feelings are about. Sometimes our feelings just come out and we're just irritable or in a bad mood and we don't really know why. So just giving your brain that space to be and process and not having to be on or focused, it allows us to just process it and cope.
That's so helpful. Really, that's so, so helpful. I can't remember who it was. It's one of the big gurus in sales. And I can't remember who it was. I'm sorry, I can't give you credit for this. But he talked very much about before he would go on a sales call, he would just write everything out. Like anything that was bothering him, he would just write it out, write it out, write it out, write it out. And then he would make a big production out of like ripping it up and throwing it out. And he just felt like it just, whatever was going to get in his way, whatever was heavy on his mind, whatever he might have been angry about, like it was his way of just like putting it someplace else and deciding he didn't need it right now. Does that sound like what we're talking about here?
100%. Yeah, it's a release. Again, it's a release. It's kind of getting it from here out on paper, right? And so once it's out there, it's processing. It's really, helping you to get it out. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, Staci, I have to tell you, I couldn't be happier with this conversation. I feel like I've walked away. I know a lot of this stuff to begin with, but there's somehow when I talk to you, I always end up with like this little extra nugget or this thing that didn't quite click before. It's one of the reasons that, we love the partnership that we've created around ensuring that our executive leaders are really getting strong strategy, clarity, and guidance, but they have the option to connect with you and your team so that they're processing more of these heavier emotions and things that are a lot of times not really, for public consumption. I feel like there's such a need for some reason in the world right now to tell everybody all of your deepest, darkest things. And, I don't think that's 1,000% true. Like, I think you should tell trusted people that can give you really knowledgeable advice. And sometimes that's us in our capacity, but I really think that they should be with someone like you and like your team. So as we're wrapping up today, most people think about therapy as the place I can send my kid, my marriage, right? The other things, but like they don't necessarily think about engaging a therapist as a way to become the best leader or manager that they could be. Do you want to just tell people how a little bit of what you offer to help executive leaders to not really go to therapy, but to build this toolkit of coaching skills that keeps them really healthy and productive and focused and really being strategic in their decision making? Tell us a little bit about that as we wrap up.
Absolutely. So, first of all, again, it's this mindset of, and I mean, you could use the word coaching or therapy. It's really mandatory, as I said. It's so important in order for us to continue to be high performing people. And if you're not putting in these strategies, then you're in danger of burnout, of not of just the decision fatigue and not functioning at your optimal level. So we have to view this as super important and so helpful in helping us achieve at the highest level. So many of my clients are very high functioning people who, are leaders in businesses. And they don't necessarily have like a specific situation that they're talking about, but it's just talking about processing what's going on in their life and noticing patterns, because that's the most powerful thing, is that we have patterns in behavior and the patterns in the way that we cope with stress. And if we're able to understand ourselves better and sort of crack the code, so to speak, in how we handle stress, then we are able to just excel and function at a just much higher level than when we're not aware of these things.
You know what? So well said. And again, so much aligned to, us at Disruptive Spark. It's really about, what is the pattern, right? What are the patterns of behaviors? People say all the time, oh, it's the personalities. I'm like, it has nothing to do with personality. And by the way, don't even touch personality with a 10-foot pole, but you can identify, synthesize, and plan for patterns of business production, patterns of behavior, patterns of response. And those are highly shiftable, highly changeable, and honestly are where people see the biggest results when they invest money, whether it's with me as a business strategy leader, whether it's with Staci as someone that's going to help you perform at a higher level, or other people. It's really about people that can help you pick up on the patterns. What do they mean? How do we solve them? How do you create new ones, right? That is, I think, Staci, that's going to have to be our next conversation. Like, right. How do we create new habits, right? Habits are being created all the time for us unconsciously. I love when I get brought into conversations around how do you create intentional, healthy, high performance patterns and behaviors, because that is actually quite easy to do. So we're going to leave, I'm guessing, Staci, that's our next conversation. Okay. How do we get into those? I want to thank everyone that's been with us on this journey. Hopefully you got a tidbit out of this today, something that you're going to be able to take back and with you into your workday. We really do want to be cultivating a generation of leaders that do lead from heart and that do lead from a wellness perspective, and that do really believe that the key to being as successful as you can be as an organization is not about working harder, but about working smarter and on the right things. So thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you soon. Staci, where can people connect with you if they want to say hello?
Sure. They can go to applepsychological.com. They can email me at drstaci@applepsychological.com. That's drstaci@applepsychological.com. And there you'll find all of the information about how to connect with us.
All right. That's it for us, friends.